YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL record predictions for the 2020 season. This video for the Indianapolis Colts. We are going through every single NFL team, don't you worry. We're on to the AFC South teams. We did a bunch of teams already, and we'll finish up. You're going to want to follow that Twitter because when I'm finished with a division, I post a poll. You guys vote for who wins that division. You guys are basically going to create a playoff layout and then predict on from there, and that's going to create a future video there. So pretty cool stuff. We just hit 50K subscribers. Really appreciate everyone for subscribing. Anybody that even just watches the channel, I hope you subscribe. But just giving us the views and the subscribers, we really appreciate it. It's just over a year ago we were at 10K, really pushing for that 10K goal in early 2019, and just like that, we're at 50K a year later. So I don't even know what to say. It's ridiculous where this channel has gone, and really appreciate you guys, because without you guys, it wasn't possible. We're gonna keep on grinding though. We got more NFL content on the way. Can't wait for the season to start up, because that's when that's when we're real busy. You got the big content coming, so really appreciate it. Hopefully you can join us for that. Follow that Twitter. Like I said, there's a link down below for the podcast, the Twitter, anything that you need. Let's move on to the predictions for the Colts using playoffpredictors.com for all these videos. Pretty cool site. You can go check it out. Make your predictions for all these games. Come back to the comments and post your picks. That way you can kind of compare to the rest of the comments there and compare to mine. So the Colts, kind of breaking them down. It could be, we'll see. We're looking at the schedule. We'll go game by game, but it could be a little bit of a struggle early because, new quarterback. Even though he's familiar with Frank Reich's, Philip Rivers, that is, familiar with Frank Reich's system, former quarterback coach, then offense coordinator of the San Diego Chargers at the time, was even in, that staff when Rivers maybe had one of his better years back in, I want to say 2015. So that's all good. Familiar with the playbook, everything. Still a little bit of adjustment, just a new team, new players around him. Some new faces here and there, some young faces. I got DeForest Buckner on the D-line. It's a type of player that they've really been missing, But back to the offense side, what's good? Philip Rivers gets a familiar system, good offensive line. Offensive lines, in terms of the unit, very tough to predict going forward. You see teams go from worst to first to worst, and just flip-flop every year almost. Colts seem pretty consistent, seem to be staying at the top, in my opinion. I don't really see any reason why they would kind of decline or anything. So I still like the offensive line. The running back room is looking pretty good. It's an interesting one. Marlon Mack has kind of been that lead back and hasn't really done anything to deserve less than that. They get Jonathan Taylor. I think a good split between those guys. Nyheim Hines being a weapon that he is. Hoping they use him more, because when he has the ball in his hands, he's pretty dangerous. Excited to see him in the return game this year as well. Receiver unit is kind of where my worry's at. Philip Rivers doesn't have his Keenan Allen, doesn't have his Mike Williams. They just don't have that. T.Y. Hilton, I've always been a big fan of, just worrying about him staying healthy. Michael Pittman's that receiver they've been missing, that type of receiver, big body, downfield, down the sideline receiver, but how much of an impact can it make right away? Not a huge route tree at USC, but they don't really need him to do a whole bunch. Really, the name of the game here for the Colts is adjusting, everyone adjusting quickly. Because Philip Rivers only signed a 1 year. We want to get this thing rolling. They want to win this year. But young guys stepping up, really. You look at, I guess within the running back room, within the receiver room, but mainly the defense. They drafted quite a few guys the last couple of years that were hoping to step up. They did add DeForest Buckner. They do have Justin Houston, who obviously not going to be getting any better at this point. But guys like Kamoko Toure, Ben Benogu from TCU last year, Tyquan Lewis, who they turned from DN to an inside, more like a 3 technique. So we need those guys to step up. Guys like Rock Ya-Sin at the cornerback position. Kenny Moore needs to stay healthy. Malik Hooker needs to stay healthy. So some questions there on the defensive side. They do have some playmakers, obviously. Darius Leonard. Talking enough about the team itself. Let's go on to the predictions. Week 1, really, which could go either way. Because it's week 1, random things happen. But again, it'll be a little rocky at first. I'm not saying it's going to be a lengthy adjustment period for the Colts, but could go either way. It's really a tough one, in Jacksonville too. I think the Colts are going to be the better team this year, that's for sure. But the Jags could pull this one up. I'm still going to go with the Colts. It's not like Rivers or the new faces won't be prepared for this. So it's not on that level. It's just there could be some getting on the same page moments. We need to get on the same page. early on here. Against the Vikings, yeah, the Vikings kind of more of a veteran team, and they usually play pretty well early. I'm going to take the Vikings in that one. They gave Phillip Rivers some big problems last year, so it could be different with that Colts offensive line, obviously, in front of him. The Jets in the Colts, at the Colts here. I'm going to take the Colts. So that's kind of the good thing. Yeah, they could start off a little rocky, but with the first 3 games, you kind of expect them to win too. So that's kind of the good thing. In Chicago, tough place to play. Both teams with new quarterbacks. They both need to make adjustments. Both quarterbacks are familiar with their play callers, with their coaches and their systems. So that's kind of the good thing. I think being in Chicago and the Bears just having that defense, that potential elite defense, kind of the deciding factor. I'm going to take the Bears. Colts, Browns. Yeah, if this game was later in the season, I would probably go a different direction. I think the Browns I view as a team probably better earlier on than later, and the Colts the opposite, better later in the year. So I'm going to take the Browns, especially being at home helps. It's one of those. We're going to circle back at the end and go best case scenario, which could be pretty different, obviously, for the Colts. So we'll circle back. That's definitely one that's on the fence for me. Bengals at Colts. We will take the Colts in this one. They hit the bye week, a perfect bye week in Week 7. I love that, kind of in the middle there, not too early, not too late. Then we have the Lions. It's another one I'm kind of on the fence on because these are, similar offenses, like exact same system here. Rivers versus Stafford. I think they're, honestly, people may be surprised by this. I think they're pretty similar rosters. I think the Colts will be the better team. Lions are always they're built pretty well. They always start the season off pretty good. First half of the season, seems like every year for the most part. They just can't really finish, whether it's health, consistency. So they're really not that far off. I'm actually, being in Week 8, I'm actually going to take the Lions at home. If it was Indianapolis, I'd probably go Colts. But then, I'm going to get a sneaky one here. I got the Colts sneaking one out against the Ravens. Young defense of the Colts. Last couple of years, the defense, 1 week looks like a top 5 defense, and then 1 week looks like a bottom 5 defense. That's kind of how the Colts defense has been the last 2 years, I want to say. Probably because the youth of the defense. This year they added DeForest Buckner, but they're still young. These guys are getting better. The young, athletic defenses will be better against these new type of offense, these Lamar Jackson types of offenses. So I think it's a good matchup for the Colts. The Ravens are the better team at the end of the day, but Colts sneaking one out. Colts at Titans. I do like the better teams of the AFC South. The Titans, Texans. They don't play them. It's the first time they play one of those. That's good because what I said in the beginning of the video. Colts could be a little rocky in the start. It's going to take a little bit of adjusting. So at Tennessee. Thursday night, though, yeah, it's tough. Colts usually play well against Titans. Tennessee Titans are a very good team, very complete team. I think the Titans grab this one. Still a good thing they play them later. Packers, Colts. I love the way the Colts, match up against the Packers. I think the Packers' weakness here will be kind of the running game, but not just on the ground. So what I'm getting to, I think the Colts running back unit, not just one guy, the unit, they have a good day, and not just on the ground running the ball, through the air as well. That's kind of one of those matchups, being home helps. Split with the Titans. They'll grab one here. Colts, Texans. I will take the Colts could beat them twice. They could, but I'm going to have them splitting, which kind of tells us what's going to happen down here. I don't know if I really trust the Raiders down the late in the season. Derek Carr looking fantastic the first half of the year last year, and looking terrible second half. They pay Mariota, basically saying, yeah, we're probably going to play you eventually or at some point. So the Raiders got a complete team. They got better, I'd say. I like their staff. It's a hard team to trust down the stretch. So then there, I had them splitting, of course. Colts, Steelers. Steelers could be beat up at this point, looking at Big Ben and James Conner. I'm not really predicting. It's hard to predict. I've done predictions on injuries in the past. I hate doing that. I'm going to say they're healthy. So I'm going to take the Steelers, and then I got them beating the Jags. So I do have 9 and 7. And if we want to circle back, it's just that the young guys got to step up. Not all of them will step up. You got to think every tier of the defense. You need a lot to kind of step up. So that's kind of the key there in adjusting Phillip Rivers. I do think, before I go to my best case, I do think some people out there are maybe getting a little too hyped. Maybe there's things to get hyped about the Colts team, but maybe it's just a little too much, a little too early, because mainly based on Phillip Rivers, because the Chargers. And remember how many times the Chargers disappointed all of us, really. With Phillip Rivers. They really couldn't go the distance. They disappointed. They missed the playoffs when they should have hit the playoffs. They lost too many games. I know he has a better offensive line with the Colts. Doesn't have the better receiver unit, and he's definitely aging. So I think some people need to kind of bring it back a little bit, just a little bit. Best case scenario, remember, even though they're better than the Jags, this game can go either way. I don't know if I see them beating the Vikings in week 2 here. If it was like later on or mid-season, of course. They could take down the Bears. They could beat the Colts, they are the Colts. They could beat the Browns. Definitely could beat the Lions. I did have them beating the Ravens. Don't forget. They split with the Titans still. I did have them beating the Packers. Don't forget. This is one of those schedules where I think it's the layout. It's one of the better layouts, one of the easier layouts. But they do have tough opponents on there at the same time. They could beat the Texans twice. I did have them beating the Raiders. I don't know if I see 13-3, but I guess you can get there. I guess because I did switch. There's a lot. There's a lot that needs to happen for this to happen. So I don't know. I think they probably don't win. But they don't win 4, 5, 6 in a row here. Because I did have the Ravens one, so probably, I'd say 12 wins. 9 to 12. Okay, you can even go lower than that. Then because 9 was my prediction. My worst case, they get off to a rocky start. They kind of lose. They lose some of these games possibly. Then they start to pick it up possibly. So they probably lose that one in a worst case. The Packers. So around 6 wins is probably the bottom line. But my actual prediction here was going this route, and we got them winning that game. It was a 9-7 right there. So is it 7 teams making the playoffs? Is it enough to make the playoffs? We're going to find out in a future video after I'm done with all the record predictions. We're going to kind of go back and summarize everything, what I got. Sometimes I have some changes, of course, because there's a lot of games predicting, bound to change my mind on all those games, on some of them at least. And then we'll kind of go from there. We'll predict the remainder of the season, like playoffs and maybe Super Bowl. So a lot of content definitely on the way still, and hopefully you can join us for that. Please subscribe to both of our channels. Follow our Twitter. Thanks, everyone, for the support. Really appreciate it. Happy to hit 50K. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.